natural remedies that are now, there's so much research on them that it's ironic that we still have a lot of medical doctors that when people will say, well, you want me on this particular medication, but I would like to take, what can we do where I can take some herbs here? And the doctors will say, well, they're medically unproven, they're scientifically unproven, there's not enough data on it. There's so much data
now
on herbs.
This is just a question.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's not a stupid one. But wouldn't you think that if you were, I want to make sure I say the right word, a good doctor, don't you think you would want to explore all avenues for your patient?
I have to agree with that. It's like Dr. Edward Shook. He stated in the early 1900s that any doctor that knows of a natural remedy to take care of illness and to bring balance and health back to someone, and they choose to ignore that and opt to use something that is a chemical that will continue to break their health down. He stated that they're not worthy to be called a physician.
Wow. Well, it only makes sense to me because...
Yeah.
Now...
It amazes me, it amazes me a lot of these treatments where they're failure treatments.
Okay, how many doctors do you think we have in the United States?
Oh, I don't have a clue. I know they say there's a shortage because of the baby boomers. But there seems to be an awful lot of them. And, these new doctors, these young doctors, they're very different than the doctors 50 years ago. And I really do, it has a lot to do with the internet.
Right.
It really does. The doctors 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they had to do it on brain power.
Right. Now,
you either had the brains to get through it or you didn't. You didn't have help.
Would you trust a doctor if you went into him and you had a problem and he went to WebMD to...
I was really surprised that when I had my West Nile and I was so sick, it was the sickest time I ever remember in my life, and I was taken to one hospital, and when I had a complaint with the patient advocate about how it was handled, because my son ultimately was told when he said, well, I'm just going to take her to another hospital, and the doctor's response in the ER is, why would you take her to another hospital and waste the time of an ER physician? Take her home, she'll be fine. Well, hey, in a matter of a handful of hours, I wasn't even able to speak.
Wow.
I mean, they were talking to me, and I knew in my brain what I wanted to say, but it would not go from my brain to my mouth to speak it.
Wow.
And when they were trying to talk to me, and that look on my face was like, okay, I'm processing what you're saying. I just can't speak it. That's when they took me to another hospital. And the way that other hospital handled it was a 180. It was like, she is so sick. We're going to need 3 days here with her to see if she's even going to make it.
Wow.
With this not being able to speak, I had spinal meningitis, I had encephalitis from this West Nile, from this mosquito bite.
Wow.
And, so the first 3 days, they didn't even think I was going to make it. I think it was ironic on the first hospital, too, is the heart monitor kept going off. And the nurse would like come in and she'd reset the heart monitor. She'd reset the monitor and turn around and no sooner take, 10 steps to the door and the monitor would go off again. And she'd come back and she'd, hit the, reset it, the reset button. After she did that, I don't know, 6, 7 times, she just jerked the plug out of the wall.
Wow.
Literally. My son was standing there he said to her, don't you think there's a problem? I mean, if this keeps going off, what's the problem here with my mom's heart? Oh, it's a problem with the machine. And off she went.
Oh.
Off she went. Well, when I got to the other hospital, I was in AFib. And so it took 2 days for my heart to flip back into normal sinus rhythm.
Wow.
I was really, really sick. And so when I had filed a complaint with the hospital through the patient advocate, my son went in with me to that meeting, and so he could explain, how things were handled in the ER. And you know what the patient advocate said to us?
What's that?
Well, I'm really surprised that Dr. So-and-so handled it like that because he's our doctor that is always on WebMD. And he'll put in those symptoms to come up with what's wrong with you.
Oh,
and it was like, are you kidding me? You're kidding me, right? This doctor, hey.
WebMD doc himself, huh?
Yeah. It's
man.
Really, you think, you got people coming in here into the ER and, okay, sure, so you got a few stitches here, a few stitches there. But,
Right.
For the most part, you've got some pretty serious things coming through those doors of the ER. And to turn around and go feed in their symptoms to WebMD, I think is ridiculous. Considering, like I said, 30, 40, 50 years ago, those doctors were very, very different. I mean, they knew immediately what was going on. And I do think that due to the internet, that we have a lot of medical doctors out there that had it been 30, 40 years ago, they wouldn't have made it.
Right. Well,
they wouldn't have made it. There's just such a difference.
Plus it opened the door for a lot of self-diagnoses as well.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody became a armchair doctor, as they might call oneself.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think it's bad practice.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I can
I
see
was shocked.
where, I can see a citizen, a private citizen doing it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, yeah.
Not somebody,
It's funny because here this doctor is the doctor that is the one that they use, the one that uses WebMD the most. And he wanted to argue with my son because my son said, I've been on the internet researching her symptoms. And I'm pretty sure that she has West Nile, and she may have spinal meningitis. And here, this doctor here, he's the one that runs to WebMD, and then he was the one who wanted to chastise my son over what my son had done, and here my son ends up, going to look at the same place that he's looking.
Right? But it gives you a great starting point to, maybe, okay, I can look in this area then, and then go do your research elsewhere. You know what I'm saying? But not for a doctor. I mean, I understand that, maybe that is the learning process, and people go ahead, send me your emails at moth22.9@gmail.com, and I'll,
Yeah.
Because I love getting hate mail. But it's okay. It's okay.
I just know what, I've really not had a lot of experiences with the doctors, for well over 3 decades. I've used a lot of herbs, and I just, being so chronically ill like that, it was a shocker on how they handled it.
Wow. Yeah, I bet, man. I mean, especially if your mind is processing it, but it can't
and
come
you
out
can't
of your
talk.
mouth. So it almost sounded like you were, in a way, you had symptoms almost like a mild stroke.
Yeah, well, and
you're processing it, but you can't.
Well, there was just so much brain inflammation. It was, wow. There was seven days in neuro ICU.
Wow.
And the first 3, they didn't think I was even going to make it.
Well, no, that brain inflammation ain't nothing to play around with.
And here I had the spinal meningitis rash, and I'd had that for 3 or 4 days before I even went into the ER.
Wow.
And they were really, really surprised that I lived.
Well, I'm happy you did.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah. So, I really, don't get me wrong. There is a time and a place for medicine. Absolutely.
Sure.
I mean, I needed IVs at that point. I mean, my family, they did keep bringing me things that, if I would have taken them, yeah, I wouldn't have been so sick, but I just couldn't. I was so sick, and everything tasted so over the top. It was just everything tasted awful, so bad that I couldn't tolerate it in my mouth,
Wow.
And that was just like my taste buds were like on, overdrive.
Right.
And so, I needed IVs, and I remember looking up at those IVs, and all I could think of is, I need probiotics.
Right, but
I need probiotics. I need yogurt. I lived on Greek God's yogurt. The honey, Greek God's yogurt. With my green drink powder mixed into it, and I lived on that for months because I couldn't tolerate food.
Listening to I just cannot help but to go back to that doggone statistic.
Oh, the statistic, yeah, with how we really...
I mean, because that just really blows my mind.
Not many, really, when you look at the whole world as globally.
Right now,
there's just such a small percent that actually get health care.
Okay, so for the people that don't know about the statistic that I am talking about, it was, we have... our world population is 4.5 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Only 15% of the world's population has ever seen a doctor.
15%.
And that 15% spends $7.5 or $7.4 trillion. Now, what does the rest of that 85% of the people do, since they don't see a doctor?
Right. Well, we have some underdeveloped countries that they don't do well
because they're herbalists or their
right. But there are a lot of them, yes,
or
herbalists and
that,
shamans, yes,
produce the naturals
exactly.
But that's the way it's been working for thousands and thousands of years.
And then we have the other ones, on the other hand, that their water is so horrible. And they live so primitively, and the waterways are so toxic that, just the diseases that are, waterborne from drinking that, end up with parasites and...
Right. I understand that part,
right.
Because there's like some rivers in the world that, you don't even want to put your hand in it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because you're going to get some disease.
Something. And it'll just come right through the pores.
Yeah.
You don't even need a cut for entry.
Right.
Or you get your hands wet and then you wipe your mouth, or you wipe the water out of your eyes, and it's an entry point. Your ears. It's incredible, some of the things that have come out of people's ears.
Oh, yes. I just saw a video not too long ago.
Yeah,
Disgusting.
So, yeah. So kind of, back to, the influenza. It's been around forever.
Right.
And, there's